Yeah, don't feel like you have to wait for us to tell you, oh, Michael, what do you think? Just if you got an opinion and we're done talking, jump in there.
Did you just give him the okay to butt in?
Oh, crap.
Think about that.
Oh, no. What have I done?
So I understand. So you're like organized.
No, I wouldn't go that far. Not go that far at all.
I don't think we're organized, but we try to communicate without talking.
Rocco said he highlights bullets so that he'll talk about them. Now I know now I know all the mistakes I make because I never realized that was what we were doing there. With So he's probably like, why does he keep covering everything I highlight?
Well, I just told him I wanted to cover this, for crying out loud.
Yeah, we're real organized, Michael.
Yeah.
Okay. So Rocco's organized.
Let's take a quick sound recording, though.
This is an example of Speaks, an audio compression codec specifically designed for the representation of human voice.
It's the Mumble Man.
Welcome to another episode of Destination Linux Podcast.
Welcome to episode 57. I'm Rocco.
And I'm Ryan.
And this is Destination Linux. And this week we have a super special episode. How about it, Ryan?
Man, it's a super, super special episode because not only are we going to leave producer Zeb here with us, but we've got Michael joining us too.
Yay!
Every fan should be happy now, Rocco.
That's right.
Yep.
I agree.
So we have, get this, we have PZ, producer Zeb, and Michael, who's also known as producer Michael. 2 producers in one show.
This should be the best run show ever. We should have no technical errors at all.
That's right. So, Ryan, what's been going on this week, man?
I don't want to talk about it, Pass.
Ryan, what's been going on this week, man?
It's been so bad. The week's been great. Let me tell you. Let me start with the good stuff.
Yeah.
So I decided to do Eric's for Arch merged, right? And do phase 3 and 4 of his training. Phase 3 and 4 is i3 level advanced here, where you basically take Arch and you install your own desktop on top of it. And for some people, it may be really simple, but for me, I conquered it and got Mate installed, and I was so excited. And I thought, nothing's going to take me down, Rocco. Nothing.
There's
nothing I can't fix now. All right, I use i3. I can install my own desktop from scratch. Incredible.
And then what?
And then I had a couple issues.
Minor?
Couldn't log in.
Just a minor issue.
But this isn't on the Arch merged machine now. This is on my main. This is on the Beast.
Yeah.
And so there were some patches that happened over the weekend, and apparently it only affects me and a couple other people, and I couldn't log in unless I did it Control F1, F7 to get to my screen. Then random things started failing, like my Intensity Pro no longer worked, so I couldn't get my Crouton video out because I now have Crouton on my Chromebook, and all of this stuff. And then my mic stops working.
Yeah. What's bad about that?
Well, I had to do. How dare you? I had to do a massive reinstall because I was thinking it was Arch related. But it wasn't. It was a hardware issue. So guess what I'm on right now?
What are you on?
Manjaro.
No, you're not. Stop it. Stop lying.
A Linux from scratch.
Are you on a semi iPad interface object?
Yeah, I got this. I keep trying to scroll on my screen, but with Ubuntu GNOME that I have here, and it's barely set up. I got it running, as you know, an hour before we started recording, but here I am. And so all of my issues, we'll see. We'll have to tackle them after the show. That's been my week. It's been great, Rocco. How about you?
Well, I was listening to all of the podcasts out there and hearing all the buzz about KDE Neon and all of the challenges going out there, and it just made me, kind of like say, well, maybe I'll check it out. So I installed it on a second drive, and man, I miss KDE. Oh my gosh, dude. Okay, so wait, let me preface this by saying that one of the reasons why I'm not running KDEs because it's
you like iPads?
Because I like iPad. No, it's a little buggy sometimes. And what do you know? I install KDE Neon on a separate drive, and I do the first thing that everybody does. What's the first thing you do? You update.
Yeah.
So I hit the updates, and Discover comes up, and then completely crashes. That's the first thing that happened to me on KDE Neon.
If there's a bug, we will find it.
Oh my gosh!
It's supposed to have improved.
Well, when did you install Neon? Because there was a little time period where it was out but not available in Neon.
I just downloaded the ISO yesterday, so.
Oh, okay, it was there then. Never mind.
It was.
Next.
If there's a bug, Rocco and I will find it. That's the thing. Like other people, I was talking to Eric about the issue I was having. He's like, "No, I'm not hearing much about it." And I'm like, "Of course not, because it's just me." And same with Rocco. We will find the only bugs out there.
So I've been checking out KDE Neon, and like I said, I really, really missed a lot of so many features that if you don't run it for a while, you're like, "Oh wow, I remember that." Oh wow, So
when will you be hopping?
When's the official transition?
To be honest with you, I really like it, but I don't know if I want to stay with the user edition for KDE Neon. I might think about, I don't know when, and we'll talk about Plasma 5.12 later in the episode, but I don't know when 5.12 will be the LTS. So maybe when that happens, when it will become out in the official LTS. It is?
Yep.
Right now.
Yep.
I'm switching.
Well, look at that. And you know what he'll say next week? He'll be like, "Well, you know why I switched, Ryan? Because it just works." That's what he'll say.
I said to myself yesterday, if I will wait till the LTS comes out and then I will switch to it, so I don't have to worry about maybe a future update causing bugs before it's actually stable. So, man. Now you
I
got
haven't
me
installed
thinking.
the LTS version, but I know someone who installed the 5.8 version and who did confirm that the 5.12 was pushed to them.
Wow.
So it should be in the ISO as well.
Nice. I got it.
So is that what you're doing tonight, Rocco?
Well, okay, so here's the thing. I got
Hopefully not. We've got a show on, boys.
Remember that drive I have, that second drive that I got XFCE on?
Yeah.
As my backup. I might install KDE Neon on
what? Over XFCE?
And then run that, and I can still leave Mate here. So, but is that considered a distro hop then?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's still
That's
here.
A sidestep. You can give it a sidestep.
Yeah, distro stepping.
All right, enough about that. Zeb, what you been up to, man?
Well, I'm a bit like you, but I've been desperately trying not to distro hop.
Wow.
What the hell?
Why have self-control?
I'm looking at my hard disk now, and in literally the last 3 days, I've tried PC Linux OS. Why, I don't know, but I did. Ubuntu Bionic Beaver, KDE Neon, and Anarchy. Now, the biggest pain with the Anarchy is it's like a semi-arch install. It just gives you the steps on a terminal. And I've never really, other than I think Architect, I'd never really been down that road before. So great, got it all stalled. Okay, had enough of this. Going to reboot into Peppermint, F8, UEFI, empty. Arch trashed my EFI entries. So I had to very quickly learn how using EFI Boot Manager to put Peppermint back in. So I've done it. Don't ask me how I did it, because I've since come off that page and I can't remember where it was. But hey, my systems, I'm really bad at taking notes of the mistakes I make and how I fix them. I've made so many over these last 3 years that I should have a Encyclopedia Britannica.
Well, you know what I started doing is I installed Simple Note, and that's the first thing I install when I go to a new distro, and I pop it up because it's cloud-based. And I literally have a dictionary of all the fixes and issues I run into with every distro. And that's my first thing that I do. That way I can, take notes on the problems I have, etc.
I should so do that, because I'm in the same corner, Zeb. I have made so many mistakes and fixed some of them, and found the fix for it, and then never remembered where it was. So,
yeah,
I've done it where I've actually found something that I was broken, fixed it. A year or 2 years later, like find the same problem. Like where was this fix? And I find the search on Google, and the answer provided on the Ask Ubuntu website was by me.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad,
I'll
dude.
go through my own YouTube videos of how to fix an issue to try to find it. Like, what did I do again to fix that?
I'm going to have to watch my own KDE videos to remember all the settings.
Yeah, I know.
What you been up to, Michael?
Well, I'm doing actually the opposite of what you guys are doing, where you don't want to distro hop. I haven't hopped in years, so I decided to do that New Year's resolution. So this week I started doing some hopping, and I've installed probably about 5 or 6 different distros in the past day, and but I've also done it in different partitions and drives and stuff. So they're not. It's not just like one to the next and the next. They're all installed at the same time, and they're all going to be used on bare metal for like testing and stuff.
So what you should have said is, my name's Michael, and I'm a distro hopper.
and I'm doing my best to become a distro hopper.
But see, I don't think distro hopping goes quite like ours. I kind of envision Michael install something. He looks at it. That's not as good as KDE. That's not. All right, what's next? Download the next ISO. Like, he's not really in there. He's just looking at the competition and how KDE is superior.
I mean, that's not necessarily wrong, but I have actually done things where I was in the systems and I was playing with each system, the DEs or whatever I was using, and I would try to do something. I was like, oh, right, that was a plasma thing. Never mind. This doesn't work.
Yeah, like typing on your desktop.
So what did you install?
I installed Ubuntu 17.10, Kubuntu 18.04, so plasma, yeah, and Solus Budgie, OpenSUSE plasma.
Imagine that.
Yeah, Magia. Let's see, Ubuntu.
What was
Mate.
your favorite?
Plasma 5.12.
Actually, Kubuntu 18.04 is nice.
Kubuntu? Did you say?
Kubuntu with plasma, but 18.04. So it's the alpha. It's not. No one should use it right now. It's just me playing with it. But it's one of those way before. It's not even beta yet. It's not really even alpha yet. So
I was gonna say I asked Rocco about it, and he was like, "Don't."
Yeah, you shouldn't play with it yet. But they're doing a lot of customizations that are coming in the next version that are going to be like streamlining the onboarding of someone who hasn't used plasma before. So like.
Wow.
They're changing some defaults that are commonly bothering people. So that's pretty cool.
You mean most of them?
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how many they're changing,
Rocco,
but it's more than one.
Sorry.
You mentioned
I thought I
Magaya
had
there.
a bad day.
Yeah. I think
you
that's
mentioned
all.
Magaya there, boys. Have you noticed how much of a drop that's taken on the distro watch? I mean, I know distro watch doesn't really mean much, but it always used to be like 4, 5, or 6. It's about 18th now or something.
What, Magia?
Magaya, yeah, I'm sure it is.
It's probably because it hasn't had any like attention in a while. Like it's got its last release was like July of last year, and they still update packages all the time. It's just they don't do much for promotion about that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's just because it's not on people's minds because all these other things that are getting their attention. So it's just like people don't go to it. Maybe that's why it's dropping. But I've been a fan for Magia for a while, and
All right.
and it's got a lot of cool stuff. And especially when I have an application in their repos, and it was gone. It was like outdated for like a year or two, and then this new maintainer came in and like reinvigorated my interest in it. So I've been playing with it for a while.
Nice.
And of course, they also have plasma.
Well, Magia was always one of those ones that had really cool features to it. So I would install it, and it had some awesome things to it. But then it just always, I don't know, something always went wrong with it for me. Anyway, at least on my, but that's any distro for my hardware.
Yeah.
I also like the cauldron system. It's cool too. It's a rolling system on top of a stable base. So you can have the cauldron repro on the like Magia 6 base. So it's pretty cool.
Kind of like Neon.
Yes, kind of like Neon. Except they roll more. They like you start at a certain like a snapshot, and then it starts rolling more. So it's kind of like Arch. If you had like snapshots to just stick with one if you want, but you can also roll if you wanted to. So that's pretty cool. Also, this week I made the Plasma 5.12 promo video that was released along with the actual.
You did a good job on that, man.
Yeah, you did.
That.
I thought it was pretty awesome, man. You have to teach me the Kdenlive ways of all of the editing.
You know what's funny is like there you see how all the effect I did where the KDE Slim book has the plasma inside of the Slim book.
Yeah.
In order to do that effect, I had to convert video from 1080p into 4K and then back into 1080p so that effect would work right. So that was fun.
Nice.
So lots of editing on that one. And also I'm bringing back the This Week in Linux show that I've been doing. So, I haven't been doing.
You've been taking a break. You've been taking a break.
Yeah, exactly. I was taking a break.
So I'll finally get a reminder, a notification.
Yes, you will.
Okay.
And other videos are coming too. So
nice. Hannah Montana is on its way.
Someday.
Yeah.
That will happen. I guarantee it. I'm not going to give you a time frame.
Just not yet.
That'll be like the early Christmas present sometime in December this year.
Today is not that day.
Christmas in July.
Christmas in July. Hey, we just got a month. It's going to happen in July, people. Look forward.
Sure.
Which year, though, he didn't say.
Well, as much as we associate Michael with KDE, this next article we really associate with Zeb. I mean, he's kind of got to handle this, right? Rocco?
Right, the Peppermint 8 remix. Is that what you're talking about?
Are we going to go down this road again? Are you?
He's going to set
Are
Zeb
you
off.
trying to mess with my head? Peppermint 8 Respin 2.
Oh, that's what it is. Oh,
That's what it is.
It's just
never happened before, as far as my knowledge. It's just because of everything that's been going on. But I'll let you have the pleasure of talking about it. It's not a remix, okay?
Well, okay, so this is, Zeb, correct me if I'm wrong, this is not a major update release. This is a few updates that went out to the already Peppermint 8 users who got it in their update manager, and they're just re-releasing an ISO.
Correct. Just
There's a couple bug fixes in there, though.
A couple of bug fixes in the but nothing, no showstoppers, and it's really for people coming new to Peppermint, not having to install the Respin and then having their nice fresh system in front of them, and then waiting 5 or 10 minutes while it gets through all of the updates that have been happening. There's been a lot of them happening in the last couple of weeks, or since Christmas, as we know.
I'm glad they're remixing it.
Leave Zeb alone, will you? For crying out loud.
Payback hurts.
Hey, Zeb, when he says, "Why is Zeb so mean to me?" I know exactly the reason. Okay.
I had to get him back for all the comments earlier.
All right. So, what's in a naming scheme, like a number point release naming scheme? Because Elementary is going to be coming out with a new version of Elementary. They used to put their point releases at 0.1, 0.2, and the latest one is 0.4, and you would think that the next one would be 0.5, but it's not, Ryan.
No, they are going to completely drop the hammer here and change this entire naming format to something normal people would have. Like whole numbers. So the next version will be 5.0, Juno 5.0. And this is really, talking about what's coming in Elementary. And there's a lot of people talking about Elementary. Have you noticed all the buzz about Elementary, English Bob, all these folks from Biddle and Telegram talking about the greatness of Elementary? So it seems like there's a resurgence here in the interest of Elementary. Not that it ever wasn't popular, but I'm hearing a lot more people talking about it.
Well, they're adding all kinds of new features to it. So, it's not just I guess they want it to be a solid, stable release. And I have to say that I agree with the name change. I mean, who wants to do a 0.5? It kind of makes it sound like a beta.
Exactly.
So.
And most people will actually look at it as a beta because it's less than 1.0, which is like the common software milestone that most people want.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Normally, if you've got a 0 point something, you're still in testing phase. And then when you hit number 1, yes, you've got your product that you can put out there. So for them to go from 0.5 to 5, I can understand why they've gone to 5, but they should have done it when they first left 0.1 or whatever it was they left.
Yeah, or just instead of going to 5.0, go to 1.0 and just start from there.
Yeah, could have done.
Yeah,
but at least they've kept sort of a bit of continuity. 0.45.
Yeah,
the numbers have still gone up one. They've just changed the way it's incremented.
Well, either way, I'm glad they changed it.
Yeah, and they do like one release every 2 years, so it's not like this numbering thing is going to be like excessive later on or anything. So
I can tell you something in here, Rocco, that I appreciate.
What's that?
Not many major redesigns in this. Just a lot of small, meaningful changes that add up to a more smooth experience. And, you know, all the distro hopping we talk about, a lot of times there are major updates we go through when we're talking about a new release and they're redesigning this and redoing this. And you kind of wonder, you know, and some of that's good and necessary depending on how old it is and stuff. But sometimes you just want that experience to be that's currently there, solidified and not breaking and all over the place. So when I read that, I was like, you know, Elementary's onto something here.
Yeah, just polish it up.
Yep. It's a good thing to, okay, so everybody, as soon as you hear about a new release, you want to know, hey, what's the big feature of it? But a lot of times it's like you said, it's all these little fixes that make it whole. And Elementary is already beautiful. Okay, there's no question about that. So with, you know, making all these bug fixes, making all these little changes like redesign sound settings and stuff, they're adding that polished feel to it. A lot less crashing, that kind of thing. So,
yep. Clean up old code base, they said, closing out issue reports, increasing performance, all the things that after you distro hop for a while, you long for. Stability and performance.
Stability. Yep.
So there's no release date yet.
No.
They haven't set a release date, but I guess do you think it'll arrive before or after 1804?
After, at least 2 months after.
2 months after.
Yep. That's my prediction. 2 months after, maybe 3 at the most.
You heard it here first.
A lot of polish.
I'm very confident in that because based on their track record, that's usually their range.
Now,
Okay.
do any of you guys run Elementary? I mean, none of you talked about distro hopping to it. Is that going to be on your list, Michael, as a distro hopper?
At some point, yes, I'll play with it. As far as like actually using it for a long period of time, not really. It's functionally, it's too limiting for me. But as far as like an introductory system, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, I've used it for about 2 weeks, and I followed the English Bob how to get the most out of it. And this is where I think where you had the problem, Rocco, that if you then take it that little step extra, it all sorts to start crumbling apart. But if you take it for what it is and think of it as just somebody coming along, here's an OS, it's a bit like Windows, you've got to use it as it is, you can't mess around with it. It actually works quite well. But like a lot of OSs out there at the moment, I can't use it because it uses that flaming global menu. I can't stand having my Elementary in the bottom right.
Come over to the dark side.
Come over to the dark side, yeah. My cursor's in the bottom right and I want to change something and I've got to go 43 inches up to the top left-hand corner to get to the file menu.
That's what happens when you use a 70-inch monitor.
Yeah, but Zeb, like I said to Ryan the other day, Ryan had mentioned about it, and I said, but the good thing about it is you always know where it is. Regardless, it's always right there.
But it's muscle memory. I'm looking in the app window like, where is this thing?
So the Mensa user needs to retrain his brain.
Never use something like that.
What I'm saying is it doesn't matter where your window is on your screen. It's always going to be up there.
I'm getting a little concerned, though, because I just agreed with Ryan.
Yeah. Welcome to the Mensa Club, my friend. Or you know what? You'll be using i3 again.
All right. Speaking of Elementary, they are changing their App Center. Have you guys seen this article?
And this one's wild.
Okay. So they're going to add a little feature that when you update, when you get updates in your update manager, you usually go and I don't know about you, but I usually click update all. Okay, I don't update each individual one. Well, with the App Center, you get the problem they were having is people would install an app and they would want to try it before they paid for it, which I agree with.
Yeah.
But their problem was that they couldn't then go back and pay for it or donate to it without uninstalling it and reinstalling it. So they had this problem of possibly losing money for the developers that people might want to donate, but they didn't want to go through the hassle of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And lose their settings maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And lose their settings. So they came up with a plan to add a section where when you hit update all, it will not update the apps that you haven't donated to yet. You'll still be able to update those apps manually. You'll still be able to hit update that and put in 0 or an amount
Select
that you want
to.
Yeah.
From the drop down.
Right. Mm-hmm. But you won't be but you won't get it automatically when you hit update all. So what do you guys think?
It's interesting. I like the idea that they're going to try to, figure out a way to solve the problem of someone trying something and then not being able to purchase it after even if they wanted to. I like the fact that they're trying to do that. I don't like this method of doing it because
it's right. Because if someone's installed 20 applications and only want to pay for 2 of them, that's 18 manual updates they've got to do.
Yeah. Every time, regardless. I asked the Daniel Foray of Elementary, is there ever going to be like a way to say, like after like a few times, maybe like 5 times manually, could you now have it where it asks you, hey, you've done it for 5 times. Would you like to make this a perma setting? And they said they have no intention of doing that right now. They're just going to do it like in a manual structure. So if you have a lot of applications from the App Center that are in the purchasable aspect, then that could be, that could get annoying pretty quickly.
I love the idea, like you said, anything that draws developers in. I think Elementary is doing a great thing here because you're gonna even draw new developers in if they can make money off of this, if it's something that they can, potentially survive on. And a lot of these apps that my personal rule of thumb is if I use it for any commercial purposes, I donate for it, like Caden Live, etc. Yeah. Then you give donations for those. Mm-hmm. If it's not something I'm using on a regular basis or for any commercial purpose, generally I don't, unless it's just something that really blows my socks off and I use it a lot. Yeah. So I love the idea. I love everything about it. And I think Elementary, if they get a good system for getting developers paid for this, is going to draw a lot of people developing within their platform. The downside of it is I think it's just going to, the people who don't like Elementary OS, it's just going to annoy them that much more. And I can give it another try. Maybe they don't care. And for some other people, it's going to start having some reminiscence of, I don't know, being in a Windows store where everything, he's constantly wanting to get nagged for paying for stuff and that type of thing. It's weird because I want it to happen. And I just don't know that, like you said, this is the right way to go about it. I love the idea. I love the implementation. Not sure this is it. The right
is this a big enough thing to cause a Patreon type backlash where they suddenly have to go, oh, sorry, lads, we did this the wrong way. We'll go back to the old way until we thought of a better method.
I mean, it could annoy enough people to make that happen. But I think that the solution should have been like, this should just be like a notifier. And after the first couple of times, it, lets you continue to do it without having to do it manually every time. So like if it's a hassle in the first time and like, it is a good system, I'll go ahead and pay for it. I like it. But if it just continuously stopped, like there are other ways they could have done it. There's like a notification that sends you to make it possible for them to, if someone says, you know what, I'm going to pay for it now, instead of having to wait for an update, they could just go into the front page of that application and pay for it there. But it seems like right now it's just an updates mechanism. So like that's kind of limiting people to only do it when there is an update.
Well, Elementary's always been on that edge of kind of getting people upset about the way they go about, donating and being really forthright with saying people should donate. And I think you're absolutely right. There could have been such an easier fix, like even a checkbox. Like you could have had all your updates listed and the apps that you haven't paid for could be unchecked.
Yep.
But you could simply hit the checkbox to check them all and then hit update all. Would have been a way better solution, in my opinion, for the user itself.
I wouldn't really have a problem with the nagging a little bit. It's just like, the manual forcing of it's not just you have select this one and select this one. It's you have to go in and manually pick 0, 0, 0. You have to type it in every single time, and that's just excessive. Like if they did a compromise of both kind of nagging to pay for it, but also allowing them to at least at some point streamline that more, then that would have been fine. But I think at this point it might even. I don't know if this is maybe just a overreaction in my point, but like they could just bypass this App Center entirely and use like a PPA or something.
Right. Yeah. Well, another change they're adding onto each individual program is down at the bottom there will be a fund button, which is kind of almost solves the problem in a way for people who want to go back and donate to an app anyway.
Yeah.
But either way, I love Elementary. I think they're doing awesome work. I think they're one of the leaders in the community as far as like when you say, what do I want a distro to look like? Everybody follows them because they do awesome work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very beautiful.
So
interface. I hope it works out well for them. I mean, I hope it doesn't backfire like people think it will. Because this one is like one of those solutions that at least it's a reasonable decision. Rather, like the previous issues that people had with them were not as reasonable, but this one totally is.
Yeah,
it's annoying, but it's not a deal breaker.
Right. Well, I'm sure if they get enough backlash, they'll probably figure out a better compromise to it. So we'll see. But we also got Kali Linux in the news with a new release there, Rocco. 2018.1.
Do you know I've never tried Kali Linux?
Well, you should use it as a daily driver.
Right, Michael?
Supposed to.
No. Don't do that.
So Kali Linux is an offensive security-based distribution. They recommend you not use it as a daily driver. And they have some new releases in here where they've done some works with enabling automatic encryption at the DRAM. So less susceptible to cold boot attacks, which is pretty cool. They've increased the memory limits on this because they have servers and things. A lot of people who do penetration testing, that type of stuff, are obviously doing tests with this on servers. So they've done some work to increase that. They've updated a bunch of their security packages in here. Now, I've played with Kali Linux. Now, Michael's probably way more expert on this than me, but I've played with it. One of the things that is amazing about this distribution is that even as somebody who doesn't do this for a living, does the security penetration testing, that type of thing, you can go into that distro and start using those tools with very little instruction. Like they're so well written. And if you have a general idea of how networking works, you'll understand very quickly what each of those tools actually is there to accomplish. I will also tell you, you could get yourself in big trouble if you start running some of these tools off of outside of your own network. So
they do give you a big warning. Don't do this unless you have permission to do this.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's really cool.
But is that a good thing, though, to put that powerful piece of software out there so that any numpty?
No, it's not. It's not like Script Kiddie easy. It's not. You still have to spend time to learn how it all works. It's just it's just not in the sense of like it used to be before Kali, before Backtrack, before these things, where you had to set up everything yourself. You had to install the individual applications. You had to set up the structures so that they would run. You'd have to know why one application needs certain permissions versus the other ones. It just makes it so it's like the introductory access is there easier. So it still requires a little bit of research to understand how it works.
And think about it this way: with all those tools being there, now the white hat and gray hat folks are in there patching and figuring out ways to stop those type of attacks. And a lot of people are what they call script kiddies, where they go online, they download some of these tools, they run them, and they don't really know how it's working behind the scenes. They just know that tool's there and they run it. So this allows actually people to do penetration testing on their servers and see how their servers will react to it and ways to mitigate it. So in that aspect, it's really kind of taking the bad and putting that out in front of people who are good so that they can figure out how to mitigate it, which is really awesome. You can install any of these tools, by the way, on any distro. You don't have to use Kali.
Yeah, the reason why Kali is done is because it's just easier and has it's like by default it's root only, and like it just makes some applications run more efficiently in for like pen testing stuff. So like Metasploit runs better if it's root, things like that. But it's actually a good thing. Like the latest releases, like it's a couple years ago they made this solution, but I'm glad they're still sticking with it. They were used to be based on Ubuntu, and then they switched away. They're like the concern that you had, Zeb, was the making it easy for people to get into it. So they switched to Debian to make it a little bit more difficult.
A little bit more difficult, yeah.
Yeah, so it is actually, they are trying to take some precautions in that case.
Now, is there a Microsoft equivalent set of tools, or is this unique to Linux that can allow them to do all this like penetration testing?
Some of the tools, yes. Some of the tools, no. It's like Metasploit and is pretty much just a Linux only thing. But there's other ones. I think Wireshark works on both. It might not work on Windows, but I'm pretty sure it does. Yeah, and like there's certain tools in it, but as far as like a collection, I don't think there's as many or as like a like pre-configured structure like you could install and have all these available. I don't think that's possible.
Yeah. So yet again, Linux is leading the way.
Definitely.
Of course. All right, so Mate 1.2.
Tell us about this, Rocco. I know you're going to tell us about this.
Well, see, I don't have it yet. Okay, so
but you've got Mate. You're a Mate guy.
I'm on Ubuntu Mate, running awesome. So this has it's not like a huge release, but it has some really cool features to it that came out. So number one, I don't have a high DPI display, but it's awesome to see distros, desktop environments working on high DPI for people who do. Zeb, you have a high DPI, don't you?
Yeah.
So what you need to do, your homework, Zeb, is to try out 1.2 when it comes out and see if it's any better than it used to be.
Okay. What's really cool about the high DPI for Mate 1.20 or whatever is that it's automatically detects what DPI it needs to be.
Nice. I love that.
Okay.
Nice.
The auto detection stuff is so much nicer than having to go manually set.
It doesn't do fractional scaling yet, which is at some point it will. But like the coolest thing is that it has the auto detection. Whether if you have high DPI display, it was like, okay, you have this, you want it this way. You don't have to manually go and change it. But another thing is that the icons for the high DPI are separate from the font structure. So while the icons are not going to like fractionally scale, the fonts will. So like you'll have it'll automatically, like if you have your icons that are like slightly too big or the font, you mean
like GNOME
adjustments. Yeah.
Well, how else are you supposed to push on them with your finger?
Yeah.
So Marco received some updates as well, and Ryan, we were talking about this earlier, and I usually switch it, and I can't remember what I have it, but I usually put it on one of the hardware accelerators. Yeah, I don't know if it's Compton or what, but I usually switch it. But Marco itself got some updates, so now you have window tiling. Ryan, you're a big fan of window tiling.
I know, but it's probably not anywhere near as powerful as i3. But at least they're trying to give you some baby steps before you get.
This is for the common user,
desktop environment,
not the Mensa users. This is for the common man here. Okay,
he wants a combination of Ma3.
It's great. You know, you have like step 1, step 2, step 3 distros. Step 3, of course, is i3. This is kind of like a step 2 now. You got a little bit of tiling. You can figure it out before you end up jumping to i3.
Kind of like the Arch merge learning process type thing.
Yeah, the phase 3 and 4 that I completed successfully, but then on my main machine couldn't boot back into Arch. Works perfectly, dude.
So it also comes with support for global menus. I know, Zebs, you're a big fan of global menus, so there you go.
Yeah. And yet you want me to try this?
Yeah. Congrats,
you don't have to use the global menu. Yeah.
I'll be dribbling at the cheeks next week.
So, well, okay, so the biggest disappointment in this whole thing is the fact that the Invest applet has been dropped.
Oh,
Just saying. I know you guys are high on that app, but you're no longer going to get that.
That just makes me can't use Mate anymore.
Yeah.
My favorite out of all this, though, is the Mate themes have seen significant improvements. I love theming improvements. So
Rocco's going to be like, that's yet to be determined. You haven't.
I'll be the judge of that.
Right. I'll let you know if they've improved or gotten worse, buddy.
The Pixel Police.
I like the squashed hundreds of bugs dead. That was their direct quote. I love it.
They always come up with one of those one-liners.
Yep.
So, anybody try Mate recently?
Yes.
No. Oh.
I tried both this new one sort of, and also 1710 with 1.18.
So what do you think?
It's been a while since I used Mate, well, anything other than Plasma really, but it's actually really good. Like there's a lot of improvements that I've seen that I've noticed that are like I haven't really dived into before in a while, except rather like a VM, but like it's fantastic actually. Like the interface switcher is actually better than it used to be. Mm-hmm. There's things that I was playing with that I was like, there's no way it's going to work. But like every time I use a new DE, I'll try to do something that is a Plasma thing to see if it works. And almost every time I'm disappointed. But Mate has like multiple things where it just did it. And I was like, oh wow, it's actually built in. That's surprising.
Did you hear that, Ryan? That it was fantastic.
Yeah, it's really cute, guys. What I did is I built Mate from scratch on top of Arch. Do you hear me? I've got the real experience.
I don't think Mate 1804 Alpha, so I could have 1.20.
I don't think the screen's big enough for Ryan.
I built it from scratch, Rocco.
Okay.
Following Eric's tutorials, step by step, pausing, doing exactly what he did. It worked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. No, but I like Mate. It was nice. It's still on my machine over there. It's great. There's nothing wrong with it.
Is that all you got? There's nothing wrong with it? That's the best you got?
I mean, it's nothing. There's nothing about Mate that makes me just like, you know, KDE is not necessarily my favorite distro or desktop environment, but when you get into it, you cannot deny certain aspects of it. It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Some of the things like being able to type on the desktop and you can get to your apps, just a lot of the conveniences, the customization and stuff. And Mate's neat. It's well laid out, but there's nothing spectacular about it. But the spectacular part may be it works. So
it just works.
There you go.
By default, I think Mate kind of has the same problem that Plasma does. There's so many things that it can do that it has built into it, especially Ubuntu Mate's like customized version. Like there are so many things that it has that are just off. That you would like if you turn them on, like for example, Synapse and Tilde, those are built in by default, but they're just not on. So like the benefit that you have of like using KRunner where you type on the desktop, you can do that in Mate too, in Ubuntu Mate, just not on by default.
Gotcha.
And the default interface is like the old GNOME 2 style interface when they have all these other great options that are all better in my opinion. But they're for some reason still using that one by default. I mean, it was a community decision that they kept it, but they should change that. They should
never listen to the community. Haven't they learned anything?
They have so many different interfaces that they could use that would be so much better by default. I hope they consider it again.
I agree.
They should.
I agree.
I built it from scratch, Rocco.
Whatever, dude. You know what you don't have? Oh, I guess you probably could install it.
What's that?
The Software Boutique.
Yeah, if I wanted.
But actually, that you could while you're on Ubuntu. I think the Software Boutique only works on Ubuntu.
On Arch.
Yeah, or you can't have it then.
Yeah. I'll make it work. I'm an i3 user.
Right, sure. You let me know how you work out that. All right, so Solus has some news as well, including Mate.
Man, Mate's hot this week.
So Solus will be getting, by the time this airs, they will have the Mate 1.20 desktop in the Solus Mate version. So all of you Solus users out there, let us know exactly how the Mate version is when you get it. But they also have some Plasma updates.
Yeah, the early access installation system for Solus, or the Solus Plasma Edition.
Have any of you guys tried it?
No.
Yep.
Wow.
Zeb, what do you think?
It's Plasma. It's just not me. I've never got on with Plasma. I mean, I really used to love KDE4, but as soon as they started bringing out Plasma 5, there's just something about it that I can't get used to it. So it never stays on there for very, very long. I mean, you could use Plasma before, but you had to go in, install, let's say, Budgie, and then grab everything that talked about KDE or Plasma, even the dev versions, and then you could get a KDE type desktop. So yes, it works, and it works well. And out of the box, they've only just released it. It's really, really good.
Yeah, and they've made some nice customizations too. Like they've changed the interface and stuff. Like one of the things that I've been wanting for Plasma to change, like Ubuntu's doing, and now seemingly Solus as well, whenever they release it. But it's currently in like a beta phase, so like they're not actually releasing it publicly. So
yeah, it's only for patrons.
Yeah. But it's really cool what they're doing. And I've only looked at it. I wouldn't say I've used it, but it's got a nice improvement to the UI that I've wanted, where it's got a hybrid design of the dark panel and the bright windows and stuff. So like there's things that are doing that are unique to unique right now for Solus, but like I'm excited. It's one of the things that, like, not having Plasma is one of the things that keeps me away from using Solus. And there's a big potential that I might,
really?
Maybe.
Is that an announcement are you making?
No.
Are you going to stay on Solus for the whole year like Rocco?
Yes, for at least 3 hours.
Hey, Zeb was talking earlier, and I was, if it was Ryan speaking those same words, I would have just laid into him. But it was Zeb, so I held back.
Why wouldn't you treat us the same?
Well, maybe if Zeb's in more episodes, then I'll like unleash on him. But
yeah, Zeb, he's all nice to you at first, but you just wait. You do more episodes, he'll come after you.
I'm staying in the background, boys.
Yeah, cold-blooded.
Well, I downloaded the ISO, but I did not get to install it, so I ran out of time. But
yet, well, we heard earlier you're switching to KDE Neon, right?
Well, I didn't say I was switching. I said I was going to install it on another drive. So, I mean, it's already installed on another drive, but I would install it on like one of the, as my backup, maybe even use it as my main for a little bit, because I can switch back and forth between them.
For a little bit or forever, whatever.
He's going to stay on Neon for a year.
He guarantees it.
Guaranteed. Money in the bank.
Because it just works.
One day at a time over the next 1800 days.
Yeah. Plasma is so good, though. Like this Solus bringing in Plasma is great because they've already got the inclusion of 512. So like it's still in a testing phase, but it's great. So I'm looking forward to it.
So let's talk about 512, Michael.
Absolutely.
512, the new release, they're going to focus on speeds and stability. That's the key word. So I really want to focus on this, because when you hear about, we've talked about the stability before. Have you seen some of the advancements or heard about what they're doing for the stability area to improve this? And is it going to be permanent, or is it going to be the next version's not stable right after this?
Oh, well, I mean, as far as like stability wise, Plasma is always focused on stability. Like there you might have quirks like any operating system, and you might have like application here or there, but how often do you have like an actual like your system crash? Like if you install a Plasma, you're not gonna have to worry about being on Ubuntu GNOME or anything like than just 10 minutes later before the show. But
let's talk about Discover Center when we talk about stability.
Well, let's talk about something else.
So some of the other things is integrated Wayland support on the LTS version. That's an interesting choice there.
I mean, the Wayland approach that Plasma takes is, I like it. Like their phrasing was kind of odd, but like the idea is that they wanted to have people could be able to experiment with Wayland a lot. And I think that's really cool, but it's not really like it's intended to be like used by default or anything.
Right. I love that idea. And then they talked about less CPU and memory usage. And this is something we talked about before. A lot of people had the old impression that Plasma is just this heavy desktop environment, and it's really not. I've done comparison tests myself between it and other light distributions like XFCE. You can make them as heavy or light as you want, but they're doing additional work here with the CPU and memory usage to even make it more efficient, which I think is awesome. And they say they're improving Discover some more.
There actually are improvements. I will give them. There have been improvements. There has been stability improvements. There's been like UI improvements. Like one of the things I don't like about Discover's old version was that it had like ridiculously large headers for no reasons. The sections for all the applications were really big, so you could see like maybe 4 at a time. It was just weird laid out. They've condensed that down so you can see a lot more applications, and the headers are not they at once they disappear when you start scrolling, and they are automatically leaner by default. So like it's just it still has some work to go for as far as like usability, but overall I think it's a good improvement. And my favorite part is that there was this thing that annoyed me so much that they did fix, where you try to do the update all thing, and if you wanted to scroll to see the applications, your update button would like go up beneath the header. You have to scroll all the way back up to get it. That's so annoying. But now it's like a global button that no matter where you go, it's still there. So like,
oh, speaking of global menus returned, Zeb.
Well, okay.
Did somebody say global menus?
Global menu returns in the way they phrased it was kind of odd, but like the return part was that it was returning from KDE 4. So global menu has been around for a while in Plasma, but it was brought back in like 5.9. So like the text for 5.12 is kind of like referencing 5.11 and 5.8 at the same time. So like it's certain pieces that
because it's an LTS release.
Yes, because it's an LTS release. They want to reference like here's the difference between the other LTS as well.
Right.
And that's one of the things that are like they did make some improvements that from the 5.11 to 5.12 for the global menu, so that it used to be where when you activated the widget, it still didn't work, and it didn't work on some applications. Now it will automatically start running the background process. So like once you add the widget, it just activates immediately. Yeah. So that's a much better improvement. Because like when I first like, okay, I'm going to test this, and I got to deal with like this, and I launched it and it worked. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, there was some specific. You had to check a box as well in the settings to make it work before, and it was
a little awkward, and it didn't work in Firefox, but now it does, and GTK apps as well. So it's much improved.
Well, KDE pushes the boundaries with stuff, and I think in a good way. And one of the things that I saw in your video, Michael, that was just so cool was spring-loaded folders.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just one of those things where it's like, why haven't we had this to begin with? And you basically start dragging your file over to a folder, and then that folder expands. You can see the contents of the folder before you drop it in. I mean,
yeah, and then you can, and it keeps going like an ultimate, like not really like an unlimited level. So you can just keep going to like keep loading more and more widgets until you just drop it wherever you want.
So cool, man. So cool.
Well, let's not forget that 5.12 arrives in the backports for Ubuntu as well. So if you add the backport PPA, Ubuntu users can have 5.12 as well.
Yeah, for the 17.10 users.
Yep.
Yeah. So like I'm excited for just to see what the audience has, like if they're going to play with 5.12, what they think about it. Because I think it's great, and like the performance improvements are somewhat noticeable on 5.11 and 5.12. But if you're an LTS, like Plasma LTS user, it's drastically different. It's like a 30% or so improvement. So like even boot time is massively improved.
Wow.
Awesome.
Sounds good. Moving on to another subject now, back to Ubuntu. And apparently in 1804, they're thinking of bringing out some snaps as part of the default packages. So my question will be, will these be packages that aren't available via Synaptic or the normal software center? Are they outside the scope of normal installation? Or will they be taking some of those packages and converting them into snaps? And if so, why? What's the benefit of having a snap over something that's in Synaptic? or in in the repos?
Well, the confinement and security finishers. Like the security confinement is fantastic in snaps. So if you have something that you want to you want to have, like, especially like the ability to have multiple versions installed at the same time, transition back and forth. And I would say probably, though, it's going to be something that doesn't already exist as a package for Deb. That's kind of what Ubuntu Mate was the first one to do this. They installed that application, the application in for Network Manager, as a modifier for Network Manager. It was a snap, but I don't think it existed as a deb at the time. So like they included that, and like it'll probably be something like that. I don't know if they're going to have support for, like any big applications, but if they do, it's going to be one that's like a partnership sort of thing, probably.
Mm-hmm. And do you think there seems to be a lot of popular opinion at the moment that let's go and ask the users what they want? Do you think they'll come out and say, what do you want as a snap by default? Or will they just, chuck in a couple of nice pieces?
I don't think they're going to do that, because whatever they ship by default is going to be, this should be their decision, because like you can get input for theming and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Because if you can always make decisions based on what people's ideas, but as far as like letting the community decide what application be included, like that would probably not work well, because they might pick something that is discontinued at some point.
Right.
So they want to make sure that I would bet if they do this, they would have a partnership with some company that would agree to maintain it for a certain amount of time, at least.
The other interesting thing about it is that they might actually help you fulfill one of your predictions of there being a snap-based distro. So who have you been talking to get them to do this?
I've been actually behind the scenes working. Let's just say that this is just a proposal. So this is like in the early stages of saying, hey, can we do this? But if you get a chance, go over to OMG Ubuntu and read the article. I think it's hilarious. One of the quotes in here, because he lists pros and cons for both sides, and one of the drawbacks is, his quote is, snap apps open slower than my front door does to the postman in the morning. I think it was awesome, dude. But I don't know, have you guys noticed that snap apps open slower than a regular, like if you installed it via the PPA or via the repositories?
Not really. I mean, sometimes some applications will load slower, but that's because it's that application. I've installed like the same app that was both a snap and an app image and a deb, and they seem to be fine. They're almost identical.
Well, Joey also talks about theme integration not always being there.
Yeah, that's a problem, actually.
Yeah. So there are drawbacks to doing this, and there's it's not a clear road ahead, but I think I'm telling you, I think one day we're going to see this where Snap will be the main system of getting your packages.
Yep.
Snapubuntu. I couldn't even say it. Snapubuntu. Ubuntu or something.
So is there a snap I can install, Michael, to I was sitting here playing with my new GNOME desktop, and I moved the taskbar to the bottom. And you know where my menu went? Instead of going to the left for my application menu, it's all the way to the right. Is there a snap for that by chance? Because they still haven't fixed that. Rocco, GNOME lover.
So
let me ask
anyway,
you a different question, Michael.
So anyway,
when I switched to KDE tonight, what is the best distro to run KDE on?
Obviously, it's
well,
KDE
for Mensa users, probably Neon.
Yeah. Mensa users.
All right.
For the rest of us, it's Netrunner.
We're coming back to Ubuntu here, okay? We're coming back to Ubuntu.
All right,
okay,
yeah.
So there's a new Ubuntu theme, and I love the fact that they are trying to modernize the theme.
Of course you do.
Okay, so here's the thing.
Breaking news, people.
I am not the color scheme in the Ubuntu theme. I am not a big fan. Okay, so
Orangey brown.
Yeah, well, I'm not a fan of it, but I really do appreciate the fact that they're actually trying to modernize it for people who do enjoy that color scheme. So you guys should tonight, go down and download that theme and check it out.
I plan on it.
Do you think it looks better, Rocco?
I think it's a improvement. I don't really the colors really. I mean, really, like the color is pretty much.
Rocco's like, if you're colorblind, it's great.
Well, I mean, but if seriously
The
though,
purple and orange is a weird combination.
the color is just not there for me. All right, but I laugh because this icon set and the theme, the icon set especially, is they say it's a work in progress, and yet like in the comments you'll see people say, "Oh, this icon's theme stinks because it doesn't have all the apps."
But it's
Because it's a work in progress, dude.
Right.
I mean, like, I don't get
I'm
it.
assuming this theme is already going to be on. But I was going to say Busty Beaver, Bionic Beaver.
They haven't actually said it's going to be on there or not.
No, but is it on the nightly build?
You can, it's available there, but they're doing it basically with the PPA anyway. So even if it's not on by default at all, no.
Right. I was going to say, because that's good, because as I say, I played with 1804 and it's the color schemes are just woeful. I'm sorry. I think I got fed up of that color scheme in like 2010.
Well, this is the new.
For another 7 years.
This is the new Communa theme, Zeb.
Yeah, Zeb.
That's what the PPA is.
Communa
Okay?
theme.
It actually it looks better than the previous one. That's true. I wish they would pick either purple or orange and just use that as just use purple. Never mind, just use purple.
Just go.
And they could make it much better if they just picked one. But like this combination thing is kind of awkward. But overall, like it is way better. Like, and I really like the effect they have on the panel at the top where it has like a gradient fade. It's pretty cool.
All right, so I know Ryan's a GNOME lover.
I love it. I love the taskbar menu thing so much.
So we had talked last week, I guess it was, or the week before. One of these weeks we talked about the desktop icons going away.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Well, I'm in GNOME. I have I have a trash bin on here right now, Rocco.
They're going away.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
Yeah. And also Ubuntu, you're in the Ubuntu version, which doesn't do the silly stuff.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And I've just realized Ryan's got an Ubuntu chair in the background.
I do.
Yep.
You have the color scheme.
Yep, it does. Well, okay, so on the GNOME blog, because, everybody reads the GNOME blog, right?
Yep.
They put out an article just talking about the reasons that they are removing the desktop icons. So they had announced it before, and there was a lot of backlash. I think even KDE took advantage of that and kind of like put out there that, hey, we have desktop icons.
They did make a little bit of a point on the.
It's a little shot over the bow,
Yeah.
But there's an article explaining the reasons why they did it, and I don't know. Have you guys read the article, first of all?
Yes.
I read the reason for their commit log of why they did it. I haven't read a new article.
Okay, so they tried to be, I guess, transparent. They talk about how long they've been talking about making this change. One of the points that they make is they announced it on the GNOME blog. And like I said, I don't know how many regular everyday users read that. I don't know how like this information would have got down to the normal everyday user, but they explain that they have been working on this and they have been talking about it for a long time, and they give you reasons why. They also brought in another guy talking about what the idea of removing it is and why. Long story short, they're going to remove it regardless because it's old code. And there's not much we're going to do about it except for an extension. So they are trying to work on an extension, if I am correct, to make it work. But I don't know. I'm not a desktop icon fan, but some people are. So does this turn people off to GNOME?
Are you talking specifically about GNOME, or are you talking about does the article turn people off?
I'm talking about the idea of removing the option.
It does for me personally. if I want to be in a controlled desktop environment, you know, there are other, I can just go to Windows. I want things that I can customize and make my own. And if I want the option to add icons to the desktop, you know, if you've got a new user, for instance, that just comes from Windows or Mac OS or etc., they have those abilities within there. They're going to go try that within Linux if that's how their workflow is in GNOME, and it's not going to work there. I'm not saying it has to be there. There can be differences and that type of thing. It's been there for a while. They're saying, hey, it's incompatible code. It's not been supported for 7 years. It was a tweak. It was never really part of it, you know, to begin with, and you can add it back in. But I don't know about removing things that are I'm not saying it's super important, but it's just a normal thing you can do in most desktops, right? Put icons on the desktop. It's
very important for anyone coming from Windows.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like I know people who will just like have everything on their desktop regardless of where it should be. Like they'll put their photos and videos and everything there. So like that is the big thing for them.
That's such a good point. People at work share their screen and there's 9,000 icons on the desktop of every file they've ever worked on.
Yeah, it's a bit excessive, but people do want that.
Yeah. It's just to me, it's a staple feature of a desktop environment that they're removing. It's something that should be there.
Yeah, and it's also the reasons are terrible. They're like, oh yeah, we're talking about this for a while. That doesn't make it a good decision. Just because you've been making a bad decision for a long time doesn't change it from being a bad decision.
Well, I would love to get the GNOME guys on to talk about their reasons and put them out in the air so that everybody can hear them. So
sure. Their solutions were terrible too. Hey, use an extension that will break at some point, or fork Nautilus and do it yourself. Great.
Well, okay, so the new users are not going to be able to do that, number one, right, because GNOME itself doesn't lend itself to installing extensions very easy. Okay, so they pretty much make it difficult to install extensions by default.
It worse too. Yeah, they made it worse.
So
I remember sitting here. I played with GNOME. This is early on in the shows, Rocco, and we were doing something, and I put GNOME on my machine, and you were like, "Oh yeah, install these extensions, these web extensions and stuff to get in there." And I was like, "There's extensions for there's nothing there to tell you that stuff is there." And you were talking about installing extension in Chrome and all this stuff. So that night, I'm sitting there doing all this research. It's not like it's very well made apparent when you're in it. That's available as an option to you.
That's because they don't want it to be well known. Yeah. Like they're trying to limit it because they want you to experience GNOME the way it is, because extensions start to come in and things do start to break. And then things that you get
features that are normal by default then.
Well, I mean, normal is relative to
normal expectation of an average user. How about that?
Okay.
A little more specific.
This is GNOME. This is for high-end users.
You see that GNOME in the background? GNOME GNOME?
Yeah, that's a GNOME there. So
there is one thing I would like. They do decisions that are really weird, and like sometimes they're good and sometimes they're bad, and sometimes they just don't make any sense. Like they did one where one side of GNOME did a decision that was good, that was irrelevant completely and had no reason to be made, because the other side of GNOME ruined it. So like there was one, like for a long time, people were like, well, I want to use extensions. And my thing was like, well, where do you get them? Well, it's actually just kind of easier to download the zip file and use GNOME Tweak to install it from your desktop locally. And people are like, oh, okay, cool. So and then at that point, it'll automatically update when there's a new one on the site. So that's cool. That's been removed by GNOME. For the GNOME Tweak, you cannot install local files anymore. It just doesn't exist. And for the longest time, you couldn't download the zip files from the GNOME website. Now you can.
But you still can't install them.
But you can't install them. You used to be able to install them, can't download them. Now you can download them, can't use them.
Look, I'm so torn with this because I really do love GNOME. And I don't think this is a good decision for the overall base of users, but I'm really torn because I love what they're doing. So,
well, you love what they're doing, except for this, and this.
There's not many problems that I have with GNOME because I usually get around them. But that's just me. I'm not a
the
new
type
user.
icon's working for you.
Well, okay, and
Well,
that's
see,
why I'm not on it anymore.
I was going over here to go download KDE Neon, and when I clicked applications to launch a browser, it shrinks everything.
Yes.
So you can't. There's no like. So now you guys go away. There's no multitasking.
You just start typing, dude. Just start typing in your iPad.
Yeah, I know
interface.
you could. It will come up, but I'm saying like you guys go away. You're minimized. All my screens go away.
Yeah, the overview takes over everything.
Yeah, that's one minor issue, Brian.
Minor issue, yeah.
That's one
Let's
thing.
talk about an OS that doesn't have these type of problems, Rocco.
All right, which one doesn't have them?
ChromeOS, which is based on Linux,
Oh
by the
my
way, in case you were
gosh.
wondering.
Here comes DOS Google.
That's good. Carl, by the way, is an awesome dude who's created some amazing wallpapers, and any of my Chrome OS videos out there have them in the background.
Hold on. That night you announced that you had a Chromebook.
Yeah.
I think it was within 15 minutes. He telegrams me and says, "Here's Ryan's new wallpaper."
And it was like DOS Google all over. It's genius. You can see it on my channel. I'm using. Now he's gone on this. You made him. The fact that he made you laugh, Rocco. Now he keeps making them. So I keep getting more and more DOS Google versions. And the problem is they're really good. Like the graphics are awesome on him. He's really talented.
Yes, he is.
But anyways, Chrome OS is ready to replace Android is this article. And the reason I thought this was really interesting for a discussion point is obviously Chrome OS is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sure.
And then second, because Windows had announced this week about Windows Core. Is anybody familiar with this announcement?
Yep.
So the idea behind Windows Core is basically they're going to finally, because they've been wanting to do this forever, supposedly create a version of Windows that essentially people could customize. You can move the core around, and a manufacturer could decide we want this on top, we want it to look like this, blah blah blah. And so now it would be a cross-platform Windows. So you'd have Windows on your phone, you'd have Windows on a tablet, you'd have Windows on your computer. So it's basically, instead of having all of these different versions, you have a core that just moves around and people put on top what they need. Well, Google's already kind of doing that right now with Chrome OS. You think about the Android apps that they just added into there. So now you've got that integration. And then they're adding things like the split screen multitasking and some of the other features that Android phones have into the Chrome OS. And this author in this article is basically making the case that he thinks basically Chrome OS is going to be on all the Android phones. It's going to replace and be the sole OS. Whether you're on a Chromebook or you're on your phone or a tablet, you're on Chrome OS. There won't be Android Marshmallow and all that type of stuff anymore. Thoughts?
That's not going to happen.
No. too many people out there who take the base Android system and then put their own overlay on top. Would they be able to do that with Chrome OS?
Sure.
Well, the whole point about it is like the Chrome OS is a very different beast than Android. So like the being able to use certain pieces of Android in Chrome OS is fantastic because it means you can actually like install applications.
Wow. And the crowd goes wild.
Yeah, exactly. But like that's a good improvement, but it's still Chrome OS, and Android is a very different beast and a very different experience. Like just the having a different core or having the same core with a different interface would be good, except the cores for Chrome OS and Android are so drastically different that they'd have to like basically rebuild one of the two. So I don't think they were going to, I think they're just making it so that Chrome OS is more of a viable desktop option for people who are like, oh, I want what Google makes this and Google makes this my phone. Why can't I have this application on my laptop? You know, I think it's what they're really focused on.
I think the biggest thing with this is that you have this article talking about, switching over or replacing, but the way Google, the way they let out programs like, where 2 users get it and 15 million don't, that's what you'd probably have.
Or they'll release just a third operating system that's supposed to be the replacement for everything that stays in beta and never comes out, and then you have 3 of them out there. I mean, that's typical Google moves right there. Yep.
Well, technically, if you want to count Chrome OS and Chromium OS, they sort of have it.
Yeah, exactly. We're already working on that feature.
Yeah, they're actually working on their own kernel too. So, yeah.
Yay.
There's an article here for 8 essential apps for new Linux users. So we're going to go through this and we're going to give our thoughts on, well, we're going to give you the 8 apps that this article talks about for new Linux users. And then we're going to give you what we think. So here's the list in no specific order that you must have
If you're new.
If you're new.
And unknown.
No. New. And on Linux. So Chromium, LibreOffice, GIMP, VLC Media Player, Jitsi.
Naturally.
Everybody thinks about Jitsi.
Everybody Jitsi.
Synaptic.
Jitsi.
VirtualBox. Exactly, Zeb, exactly. Isle Riot, Solitaire.
Yeah, you got to have Solitaire, naturally.
So, Ryan, do you agree?
No, this is not a great list of must-haves. It's really not. Like, for the browser, number one, Chromium's fine. I love Chromium. Chromium's great. It's got a lot of great use cases for it.
It's
but
not as good as Chrome.
Here's what I would tell a new user.
Firefox, you're right. Yeah.
Use whatever browser you used in your other OS, because you don't want somebody to have. They all work.
Internet Explorer on Linux.
Well, Internet Explorer, you don't belong on Linux anyway.
Right?
I mean, Internet Explorer has been replaced by Edge anyway, so there,
Yeah. I mean, so
on the edge.
I would say browser-wise, you go with what you're familiar with. LibreOffice, of course, fantastic, but it comes with most distributions. GIMP, VLC Media Player, sure. Jitsi, wow.
Yeah. I mean, wait, we're talking about new Linux users here. I don't even think that new Linux users could get Jitsi installed because of how many things you have to download and install in order for it to work.
Dependencies.
I mean, really?
I mean, Synaptic, I wouldn't even recommend for a new user. I would tell them stick with the store. I mean, there's no reason not to stick with the store. VirtualBox, it's pretty. I mean, VirtualBox is kind of advanced. I don't think of a new user as just jumping into VirtualBox. I mean, something you play with. And Solitaire game, why? Does anyone even play that on Windows anymore? Isn't that just like a Windows thing?
Wait, I actually play Solitaire.
What you tell them to put a new user on. If you want to give them one game, it's TuxCart.
I play Solitaire sometimes, dude.
Oh, that's sad. Don't tell people that.
I do. Okay, it's not often, but I play it every once in a while. For a new user, yeah, I don't care about ILROT.
Well, there's this
Riot.
Essential though. Essential.
Yeah, essential. Yeah. Well, I guess they're throwing in a game to show the new user that there's games available in Linux.
You know what you do to do that? You tell them to download Steam.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's how you tell a new user that there's games in Linux. You don't say, "Oh, we got Solitaire. Aren't you happy you switched?"
We also have Minesweeper. Do you want to play?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
did anybody actually play Minesweeper though on Windows? I never did.
Yeah, all the time.
I did.
Yeah, I'm a pro.
What's wrong with you?
Great time killer.
It's esports.
Esports.
There's always one in 4. Thanks,
all right,
guys.
We should start a new Twitch channel where we all play Minecraft live.
Give me something you would add, Ryan.
I told you Steam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Zeb, what would you add?
Well, I'd take the bottom 4 away.
You would take away Jitsi, Synaptic,
VirtualBox, and Solitaire.
Yeah.
There's no point in having those. I know everybody rants and raves about VLC Media Player, but I just don't get on with it. I use SM Player.
I totally agree, Zeb. SM Player, best media player
MVP,
ever.
Yeah. Absolutely great.
But other than that, I can't think of anything that they must have.
Yeah, must have is the essential aspect of it is where it breaks. Like none of these are essential. Like a browser is essential, but any particular browser you want, it's fine.
That's right, and the same with Office. You don't have to have a full blown Office suite. You could just get yourself. I can never remember the name of them. Begins with A.
Abbey Word.
Yeah,
I don't know. You could say any browser would be fine. What's that one, Squeaky Weasel or whatever that comes? Like, I mean, that stuff looks terrible.
Squeaky Weasel.
I don't think there's a browser called Squeaky Weasel, dude.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Ferret or some type of rat.
ChromeOS is affecting your Mensa membership, dude.
There's some type of rat named browser out there that looks like junk to me. It's like it's 1994.
Michael, what would you add? or take away?
I mean, I would, as far as take away, all of them except for LibreOffice and VLC. I think most of these are a bad choice. I mean, Synaptic is not remotely new user friendly. VirtualBox is like, that's an advanced tool anyway. Most people don't even know what virtual machines are. Jitsi is, yeah, you've already talked about that. It's fantastic. It's not essential.
No.
VLC is like the only one I could think of that makes sense because people are going to be familiar with it, so you might as well.
It's true.
And with this is like something for users to get. If they're Firefox users, they don't even have to install their browser; they already have it. So like it's default for most distros. So like this list could be one essential app, and that's about it.
That makes for a less exciting title. The one essential app you must have for Linux.
Yeah.
Well,
I think VLC is not as good as SM Player or MPV. Either one of them is better than VLC. But VLC is going to be something that people are going to be familiar with on Windows, so it might as well be on the list.
You're right. So my question is then, why is Jitsi on here and not Skype for Linux?
Well, I mean, Skype for Linux is brand new, and it's like the Electron people are not liking that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if you have a new Linux user, they're going to be familiar with Skype.
Yeah, why not do Skype or Telegram or something like that people have actually heard of?
Yeah.
Or even WhatsApp for Windows. Or, WhatsApp for...
Well, WhatsApp for Linux is awkward. I guess that's why they skip that. Well, they put Jitsi, so who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But like, Synaptic, keep your own store that you already have. The GIMP part is like, it's probably the best free editor, but it's so complicated, so I wouldn't call it essential. I would say like maybe Penta or MyPaint or something like that. That's more but it does basics, but it's really simple.
Well, okay, but that's also coming from the perspective that the new Linux user isn't very technical either. There are technical, yeah, but what I'm saying is there are users who use Photoshop on Windows. So
sure.
So this I said about, like I think GIMP should definitely be on there because you're going to have people that are of all technical levels. So yeah, I agree with the GIMP thing.
I mean, GIMP's a fine program. I do like it. I don't know if I would consider it essential.
I would think you'd want photo managers and your basic,
like Shotwell or something.
Essentials in there that people can use.
They should definitely have Thunderbird on that list, I believe. Don't you think?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Totally.
Thunderbird, like some email client at all, because there's not one by default anything. You might as well have put something there.
Yeah. So speaking of Skype, it's come to Linux via Snap. So it is new, as Michael mentioned, but it's been in the news this week that it's gotten snapped on Debian, Ubuntu, Arch, SUSE, and more. You can now utilize this app. So is Microsoft making a play for a universal chat platform to basically keep up with the likes of Discord, Telegram, Slack, Mumble, all these, and trying to pull away some of those? Is this necessary because Skype is something a lot of businesses use? And from a networking standpoint, a lot of them are on Linux, obviously from a back-end server standpoint. So they're adding Skype in there. Or is this just Microsoft playing ball in a nice, open, friendly family picnic of Linux and Microsoft?
I think it's because they don't care, because they don't have to care.
But the other question is as well, does it work as well as it does on Windows?
Yes.
It does.
The reason why, I mean, there's certain features that they've been rolling out slowly, but as far as like everything that's there, it feels the same. But that's because they're using Electron, and the reason why they split to Electron. So every system, Windows uses Electron version 2, and that allows them to not have to put much effort into the Linux side as well. Mm-hmm. So like they're just going to be like turning on the Linux build and then testing to see if it works or not. And if it doesn't, we'll tweak some things and whatever. But as far as like the majority of their work, it's all in the same code base, so they don't have to care that much. And I think that's the reason why they're putting more support into Linux side of things for Skype, because they don't really have to like the old version was Qt based, and it was a completely independent thing, and it required a completely like unique work. And this way they can just skip all that.
Yeah, but I would argue that they do care because there's been a pattern of Microsoft they're making changes or making additions to where, with all of the Linux stuff enabled in Windows itself, they're showing a pattern of caring. And like years before, they had nothing. There was nothing for Linux. And now all of a sudden you see one by one things that, didn't work before now work, or they're incorporating it into Windows itself, or they're allowing their applications to work on Linux. So
bringing SQL Server and stuff.
Yeah, I think they have a pattern of caring. I don't know what the
I don't know if caring's the right word.
Okay, I don't mean caring and like they care about you. I mean they care about the fact that Linux is there.
Yeah, I think they're starting to take notice. I agree. I don't think that they don't care about what's going on in Linux. In fact, I think they're either wanting to partner more closely, and this could be, or they are doing what Microsoft has done in the past, and that's kind of starting to integrate themselves within the platform to try to stop some of the potential damage that Linux could cause. Is Linux causing them damage right now? Well, in the server world, yes. In the desktop environment, not yet. But I think they're starting to see some of those trends shifting, and they may be worried about that.
Are they heading towards where they have an operating system that is it Windows or is it Linux? Because it works in both worlds. Can they meld the two OSs together so that you can have Windows? You can't do that, no.
Well, they're trying in a kind of a way. They've got the bash option within Windows now.
They're trying to provide developers to it's the Microsoft approach is provide developers who want Linux tools to use them in Windows.
Yeah,
directly. Whereas the Linux idea is get people used to using these tools in Windows, and maybe they'll just switch completely. So it's like they're both trying to use each other for the same purpose of keeping them on Windows or moving them off Windows. But they do the same thing that accomplishes, like potentially could accomplish both. So like I don't think when I say that they don't care, it's more like they don't care about not having to work on it. Like the reason why I'm saying they don't have any reason not to make it for Linux, because the work is the same on either platform. So they don't care about like, oh well, this is extra work, we might as well do it anyway. Like it's just fine. That's what I meant. They don't care. But as far as like they're changing like the SQL Server stuff, the .NET open sourcing, all kinds of stuff is really cool. They're also doing things that are awful and terrible, but
Wait, do you hear that?
What's that?
That's the Windows meter. We're talking too much about Windows on the Destination Linux podcast. It's gone off. Okay.
It's gone off.
Thank goodness we got that meter installed.
So let's talk about something that like everybody loves. Everybody? Okay, we all love.
Most people.
All right. So Ryan, I know that you've had a great week.
Oh, so
but
good.
Have you been playing anything this week?
No, I haven't been able to play anything because I've been busy learning phase 3 and 4, Rocco. I'm on phase 3 and 4. I actually played the game.
What are we going to do without what I've been playing this week?
I did play the tutorials of the game you gifted me, Warhammer.
Yeah.
And it is really awesome. So first of all, thank you. Second of all, for those interested, Warhammer 40,000 is basically taking StarCraft and putting it in the Warhammer world. You're building your bases, you're building your armies, you're doing massive attacks, as you build up different types of soldiers for different types of fighting. They add some elements in there that are really interesting that aren't even in StarCraft, such as, having only certain soldiers that can penetrate certain barriers that the enemies might be behind, etc. So very, very cool game that I can't wait to get into and play the full on edition of it. But I did get through the tutorials and I didn't die, so I fancy that a win.
Can I be able to scan your truck and just run over everybody?
You bring your Rocket League or Euro truck in there?
Yeah, I'm going to bring the truck, my Euro truck simulator, and do it, and just drive over the top of people.
Everybody on here is not a real gamer. You all play just 2 games and call yourselves gamers.
No, you play.
It's embarrassing.
We played the game.
I play the game that is the most important. It is the only game you need to play.
Exactly.
Thunder rolls.
It's in his own category.
Strikes.
Yeah,
Okay, there's gaming and there's Rocket League.
Rocket League, exactly. You don't even need to like classify it as anything other than Rocket League. It is
Rocco. There's music and there's Garth Brooks. The only thing I listen to is Garth Brooks. The only game I play is Rocket League.
Wait, the most hilarious thing was we were talking the other day about this podcast episode, and we started somehow getting on this conversation, and he starts playing Thunder Rolls in the background.
But here's the best part. It was only on for 3 seconds, and he goes, "You're playing Thunder's Rolls." He knew it immediately.
Of course, I know this song, dude.
It's the only song I listen to. You don't need to listen to any other song.
I mean, I would disagree with that, but Rocket League, I agree completely.
Okay, so have you ever wanted a Linux distro to be a gaming distro?
All Linux distros are gaming distros, Rocco.
Of course they are. You can make any distro a gaming distro.
Sure.
But do you want one designed specifically for gaming? Does that matter to you?
Isn't that called Steam? You know it? Haven't they got one already?
Basically.
Well, I think certain distros certainly cater to gaming more. I mean, they have pre-installed games and things more fluently out there. Then, obviously we can go and install whatever we want. When you asked that question, though, it was interesting because it made me think I went to like a console with a Linux-based gaming console, and I was like, yeah, I want that. So from that aspect, sure. But as far as just distros installing in general, some of them do them better than others.
All right. So there's an article that talks about the best Linux gaming distro.
Yeah.
And they mention SteamOS,
Naturally.
Ubuntu Game Pack, Fedora Game Spin. Some of these I had never heard of either.
I never heard of the Game Pack one.
Sparky Linux Game Over Edition. Ryan loves Sparky Linux. So.
Huge fan.
Okay, so then there's Game Drift Linux. Even Solus is mentioned as one of the best Linux gaming distros, and the Manjaro Gaming Edition.
Manjaro games fantastically. All these distros I don't play with Fedora because of the Wayland and the NVIDIA just don't play well together. So I haven't used that one, but all of these ones, I actually have used Sparky Linux Game Over Edition because when I did my video about not liking Sparky Linux that much, and I didn't say I didn't like it that much. I just had a lot of issues. My video's title was,
do I need to replay the video?
Lots of spark, no fire. I mean, that's not terrible. It's got sparks.
It's a good pun.
Wasn't that the Alanis Morissette video?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Video. But look, Sparky Linux Game Over Edition, I actually enjoyed for the fact that it had a lot of the pre-installed emulators and things like that out there. Now, you can do all this in any distro, but this just makes it easy because you install it and you've got it all there and you can start using it. And so, I didn't know about some of these, though, either. But I think it's cool that they have distros out there like that.
And I like the fact that there's like play on Linux and Wine and stuff pre-configured for you. Like that's cool. But I mean, most of these distros don't seem to have like they're focused purely on the game part. And I would rather them make a package that I could install and it would just do that for me on a system I'm already using.
Wow, yeah.
That would be fantastic.
That's pretty cool.
Like a meta package of game.
Exactly. Like a meta package that I could just install it and it would give me play on Linux, Wine, Lutris, well, not Steam because you got to do a different thing, but like all these other things that'd be really cool. And each one of these things have their own like flaws. Sparky Linux is great, except that it's based on an old version of Debian. So like that has a problem because the applications that are being available are going to be pretty old. And then you got Fedora already has a problem. Anyway,
why don't we all get together and write this that you're talking about, Michael? And when I say by we, I mean you write it. Then we put it on Elementary OS and we get donations from it. We could be rich.
Well, we can't because that requires us to have the applications work in their specific way. Their UI and that has to be GTK. And I'm not going to do that.
Zeb, I'm sorry, but there's no Euro Truck Simulator version. of any of
I
the
know,
stuff.
it's terrible. But that's how we install anyway.
So what we need to do is make Rocket Linux, and that would be just the only thing it does is play
yes.
boots right into
That's
it.
all you need. You don't need any other this wine
Exactly.
stuff. You just need Rocket League. It's like it would be like a bare bones system.
Yeah, and it auto boots just straight into the game.
That's right.
Well, it launches an
Make
audio
it so,
player that
Michael,
just
make
keeps
it so.
playing Thunder's rolls over and over and over again while you're playing Rocket League.
Make it so.
There is something on here I wish they did actually have that they don't. It's called Laka. Have you heard of that one?
No.
It's LAKKA, and it's a like a retro emulator distro specifically for it's Linux based, and it's like it does like Nintendo 64,
Like RetroPie?
Yeah, SNES. It's like RetroPie, but it's a distro specific for that works on any device.
Wait, that was a Destination Linux faux pas. Laka is mentioned on this article, just so you know.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry about that then. But Laka is really cool. I think that's probably of the potential gaming distros. Laka is at the top. I wouldn't say it's like number one because of like RetroPie and stuff like that. But RetroPie is specific to the Pi, and Laka can work on the Pi and other things. So that's why I like Laka.
So it says you can turn any computer into a console.
Yep, it's really cool. And the people who make Laka also make the RetroArch package for the emulation platform frameworks.
Very nice.
It's definitely something people should, if they're looking at for like setting up their own like retro console, they should definitely check out Laka.
Well, I want to get down to the Manjaro Gaming Edition because that comes also with pre-installed emulators, OBS, Wine, Play on Linux, and it's a rolling release. Now, obviously, it's based on Arch, but that also seems like it would be pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah. Manjaro's always gamed well. Arch has always gamed well. It's always been fantastic for gaming.
Yep.
I don't know how I feel about it's hard. That's like a weird mix. Like you have the rolling distro that you also have you have a specific person who wants a rolling distro and a specific person who wants a gaming distro. Those typically don't overlap.
Yeah.
But
if you have cutting edge hardware type of thing, then you want
well, that's true. That's true.
So in the other news, we've got Windows 10S. Again, man, our Windows meter is going to go off. Windows 10S might push Valve to really start pushing SteamOS. I thought this was really interesting because there are two articles here that kind of go together. There was actually a lot of opinion articles this week in the Linux, feeds about similar topics about this, but there's a lot of people thinking that this idea that Windows 10S is going to lock you into the Windows Store, basically. So Steam, you're not going to go out there and be able to install Steam. Now, currently, you can go and upgrade Windows 10S to the Home Edition, assuming your hardware...
Can't you pay £90 or something?
Yeah, assuming your hardware can handle it, you can upgrade up to that edition. But 60% of the users, they're saying, are not making that transition at all.
That's shocking.
Yeah, it really is. Because that would be the first thing I'd do if I got one of those cheap laptops that had Windows 10S on, is upgrade it. But most of the people aren't moving, and you're going to have an issue, of course, potentially with some of the announcements they're making with Core and other things where that Home Edition upgrade may not even be available. So naturally, you would think Steam would be worried about their architecture here if Windows isn't going to partner with them. And I don't know, could they even put it in the store? Would they put it in the store? Would Steam allow it? I don't know, but Steam's not there right now. So those users have no access to it.
Microsoft has requirements that make it so that Steam wouldn't work like on purpose.
So I think
there's a requirement like the UWA, I think that's what they call it, where it's like you have to agree to this particular API and to use this API, which locks stuff down to Windows, and Steam Valve won't do that.
Yep. So I think it's very interesting. Now, on top of that news, to kind of add a little spice into here, Rocco.
Yeah.
Add a little spice.
Add the spice, dude.
Valve just hired another open source Linux GPU driver developer. So they're starting to invest in this Linux world some more, which I think is really interesting on top of this news. Maybe coincidental. Maybe Steam is humming for Windows, and we're going to benefit from it. And guess what? It'll be more than just Rocket League on Steam, dude.
Well, look, anytime, like Valve, they hire an open source Linux GPU driver developer. That's the title. Okay. Anytime that kind of thing happens, we're going to benefit from it.
Yeah.
Regardless of what it means behind the scenes or who's driving it. Maybe Windows 10s is driving something like that. I don't know. But regardless, the Linux community benefits from it because you're going to get more technical expertise there working at Valve to churn out more stuff, dude. It's awesome.
And the fact that Valve is doing it and pushing it for this development, it just improves, likely to improve the GPU stack, in every way because they work with both AMD and NVIDIA and Intel and everything. So like, whatever they're doing is likely to just benefit Linux overall anyway.
Yep. And the individual they hired looks like he's got a ton of experience, lots of contributions to Vulkan driver, which is awesome. Daniel Sherman looks like they hired a pretty awesome dude there to help out with that. So look forward to seeing some of the work he's going to do.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And especially their focus, like the fact that he's a Vulkan developer is exciting too, because Vulkan is going to be game changing too.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Was a lot of this pushed forward though? Because did I imagine it? That wasn't there some rumor that Microsoft were looking to buy Valve?
There's a rumor like that like every other year or so.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen.
Just standard.
Like there's multiple rumors that when they say that, I bet Gabe Newell just looks at it and just laughs like, why do you keep saying this? Like, never.
Wait.
Money falls out of his pockets.
Half-Life 3 is coming out. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
It is coming out.
Rocco?
Confirmed. You heard it here.
Confirmed on Destination Linux.
Could you imagine if we got that announcement? Gabe's on our show and he's announcing Half-Life 3.
Gabe, come on our show and announce it. Okay, just be open with it. All right.
Remember, the half-life is just as important as the destination.
That's right.
We'll work on your schedule, Gabe. You just tell us when you're available. We got you. MadWorld 2D HTML5 cross-platform MMO. One of the areas that started to really pick up in Linux gaming, and I'm happy to see it, is we're getting more MMOs. And this is an MMO. It's not traditional in the way that it actually runs through HTML5. But to me, it looks really cool as somebody who really, cut their teeth in gaming on MMOs, Ultima Online and EverQuest and those games. Seeing more MMOs come over, I think, is awesome. So MadWorld 2D, it's HTML5, which also means it's cross-platform. You can run it on Linux or any operating system that has a browser. Now you may be like, why would he even say that? Well, I went into TurboTax the other day, which is completely online. It says this is not optimized for Linux. Or, you got to use Windows. And I'm like, and you just click continue and it works perfectly fine. And what are you talking about? It's a browser, you morons. Anyways, so MadWorld 2D runs through the browser HTML5. It reminds me of Darkest Dungeon-like graphics. If you guys have, I know you haven't played that.
It reminds me of like 2D.
Yeah, it's 2D, but it's really cool, kind of dark.
It reminds me of Pitfall from the Atari.
I think it's worse than Pitfall. I think it's worse than Pitfall. I loved Pitfall.
You didn't play Pitfall. You've only played Rocket League your entire life.
I played Pitfall many moons ago.
And Asteroids,
maybe
Pac-Man,
once or twice,
probably.
Yeah,
Asteroids was cool.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
All right, but there is a game that has really good graphics.
Oh, go ahead, Rocco.
Just saying, dude. All right, so hopefully I'm not butchering the name, Conarium.
That's what I would say.
Okay.
Conarium.
This game, okay, so it doesn't have like, say, maybe Battlefield 1 graphics, but what it does have is it uses the effects in the world and the lighting to a T. I mean, it's so, the atmosphere, it puts you there. Like, you watch the video and you definitely, this is like a scary kind of game. Like, you definitely don't want, did I tell you I played Fear? Like, the first time I played Fear.
Oh my god, you played another game?
Dude, you don't want to play Fear at night.
No.
Okay? I'm sorry. You just don't want to play that game at night. And this is the same type of game. I don't think you want to play this game at night. It's just that is so good in the lighting area and the effects and this. You don't want to play it at night. Just saying.
Did you scream?
I might have screamed like a girl once.
There's a lot of games like that, like Outlast.
Yeah.
Like, don't play that at night. That's creepy.
Yeah.
And you're like Outlast is like one of those great like horror games where you're the only weapon you have is a flashlight, and you just hope you don't get caught by some weird crazy thing. And that's like I think I got through like maybe an hour. I was like, no, never touching this game again.
So the funny thing about this game is it's on right now as we're recording this, because we're recording this Friday. It's on sale for $8.99.
Have you still not pushed the purchase button?
No,
you've been talking about it for 2 days.
No,
like,
it's in my cart. It's in my cart. I just haven't hit the buy button.
Sloth.
But by the time this sale ends Monday, so by the time you hear this might have ended already. But either way, it would be $19.99, and I still think it would be worth it to buy.
It looks pretty cool.
It is really cool.
But guess what else still looks cool is MadWorld 2D HTML5 MMO game. Looks cool too.
Yeah, sure. From an i3 user that doesn't care about looks.
Well, I can get it for $6.74, and I've still got money left in my Steam account.
Rub it in.
So,
Zeb, you got to pick this up, and next week you got to come back and let us know what this game was like.
But you got to play it at night
with headphones on, Zeb,
and record it.
I might just buy it and gift it to someone.
Why don't you stream it? Why don't you stream it, Zeb? Why don't you buy it and stream it live?
Stream it. The lights out in your room.
Yep. Dude.
And then donation sounds have blood-curdling screams, so we can try to like trip you up.
Yeah, every time I scream, you have to donate $1 or something.
Yeah. I'm serious. Like, if I played that and streamed it, you'd hear me scream like a little girl.
Man, I might gift it to you myself, Rocco, to get that recording. That's worth $8.99 all day long.
Yeah, we'll just collectively put it in the pot so we can get you to do it.
Yeah.
Well,
I've done it. I bought it.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
So, the only thing better than Conarium right now.
What's that?
Oh, thanks. I've bought it now. What are you doing?
is all of our.
Oh, good grain, but here's a better one. Yeah.
All of the people that support us.
Yes.
On this podcast.
Love them.
From the patrons to people who just watch on YouTube to if you're just listening to the audio, a big thank you to everybody for watching, listening, and supporting us. The last thing I want to mention is I got a couple emails last week from the prior week's episode about having space issues on Ubuntu Mate, and it was no fault of Ubuntu Mate. It was user error, and I ended up getting it solved through NCDU. But I just wanted to mention there's a couple guys that sent in emails suggesting the fixes, Sash and Jeff and Dan. So I appreciate all of the support you guys give when we have problems, and that's what the community is all about. So
yeah, and congratulations, by the way, of getting your recommendation of a fix in before Rocco hopped. That's almost impossible.
All right, so what are you going to do this week, Ryan?
Well, I'm going to, I just finished downloading KDE Neon, so I'm going to get that on a USB and install that on my machine. And then as soon as I'm done with that, I'm probably going to make a video on Crouton, which is now on my Chromebook, man.
Nice.
And
I like to put that in salads.
when you add crouton to salads, it's delicious. When you add crouton to ChromeOS, it's also delicious. It just adds a ton of power into a really cool platform, and I think people are going to really like the videos on that.
Nice.
Yeah,
What about you, Rocco?
It's a way to make Chromebooks good.
Yeah, exactly. Linux makes Chromebooks good.
ChromeOS is Linux, right? Right.
Pure Linux makes Linux Chromebooks look good.
I am going to, okay, so in theory, who knows what, how much time I'm going to have, but in theory, I am going to work on switching over that backup drive to KDE Neon. So it's a 500 gig drive, so it'll have all of my info on it. So I could actually run either this Ubuntu Mate or that drive. Because like I said, right now I have Ubuntu on it just as a backup in case Mate fails, which it never does. So
we'll both be on the same distro for the first time. We'll be distro brothers, Rocco.
That's right. Seb, what are you going to be doing this week, man?
Well, it looks like I'm going to be taking up the Destination Linux Challenge and broadcasting Conarium.
Yes,
So,
I love it.
I would love that if
Nice.
you do that, man.
I'm just going to, sometime tomorrow, load up the live stream, change it from Wacky Races to Wacky Conarium, and see how I can wreck Conarium.
I can't wait, dude.
Oh, please let us know in our channel so we know when to.
Yeah. I have no idea what it's going to entail, but it's going to be, okay, play, never looked at this before. How do I move about?
That's so awesome.
That's awesome. Like you don't even know what the game's about. I'm just gonna play it.
I'm just going to hit the play button and hope I know that it's the usual WSAD moving keys or
The
whatever.
whole time you just hear
Michael, what are you gonna be doing?
Well, I just did Linux this week in Linux based on the future difference, but I'm doing a lot more videos coming up, both in the sense of making videos for projects and making some custom videos for, like for example, finally doing a video where I explain how to do Unity on Plasma that I made a video last year for. So that's due, I suppose.
Do you plan on doing any videos on the distros you install?
Oh yes, I have. I'm going to do some videos on each one of them, but I'm also doing a product review. That's why I did the install of all of these. I'm doing a product review.
I've been waiting.
Yeah. So I've been testing a device for multi-booting that makes your system able to multi-boot without having to deal with grub or bootloaders or UEFI or anything. You just turn it on, you choose this one you want to use, and then you're good to go. And that one is coming up maybe the same day this is released, or maybe Tuesday. So either one is coming up next week for sure.
Awesome.
Well, that sounds really good, Michael. But I've got one question for you. You've been hanging out with Dark One in Telegram by chance?
Somewhat, yes.
Yeah, because there's a Microsoft Xbox in your background there, and we know Dark One has Microsoft Surface Book, so I thought you guys might be
What?
Microsoft buddies.
Dark
Yeah,
One?
but
Dark One who runs Linux?
This is an Xbox
well, he doesn't
360.
run Linux anymore. He runs Microsoft Surface Book.
Oh.
I would like to point you to the bookcase that contains a Xbox, and the same bookcase contains another Xbox, a 64, a Wii, and some other things back here. That's just for show.
So you're a collector.
Yes.
Oh yeah, you
That's
collect
just-
old
this-
Microsoft artifacts.
These are both red ringed. They don't work. So it's
Well, it's
just-
Microsoft, so yeah.
No, yeah, exactly.
Shocker.
It's not a collector. Well, I guess okay. This is a Palm Pilot from HP. No, it's not a Palm Pilot. It's a PDA from HP from like 15 years ago.
Oh, my.
This is a camcorder that doesn't work. Well, it does, but it's like 4x3.
Did you get the Xbox to run Linux?
I didn't try before it crashed.
No, I
so
didn't
no.
try. You just liked Microsoft, huh? Really interesting, Michael.
This was
Learning a lot about you.
2006, sir.
Well, look, unlike our ungracious host Ryan here,
Right?
thank you, Michael, and thank you, Zeb, for showing up today and helping us out with the podcast.
All of these are Linux.
More
Just to
welcome.
point out. All these are Linux.
And thank you, Ryan, for helping me out this week because I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Rocco. Thank you for all you do.
This is a big thank you party. Anyway,
Exactly. Thank you for having me.
everybody have a great week. And remember, the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Destination Linux Podcast.
Should we let him in?
What's happening?
I'm not.
Yo.
I mean, I was on
You guys
time.
hear me,
He wasn't,
actually?
so-
I would let him in, but I can't remember the i3 keys to open up.
That's it. I don't have to put up with this. I've had a bad enough day as it is, and you're putting this bull crap.
Pick your teddy bear up.
Such a whiner.
I don't need this. I don't need it.
I gotta stop everybody's video, including yours, Ryan,
How dare you?
so that I can be in the top left.
So that I can see what perfection looks like with just me on the screen. I know what you're going for.
That doesn't sound like something that I would say. Just saying.
That sounds like something I would say.
Sounds like something he would say.
He's like, oh yes, it looks so good now with nobody but me.
All right, Ryan, go ahead and start your video.
Rocco,
What
is the deal with this GNOME thing, man?
What do you have a problem with now, dude? GNOME is good.
When you move the toolbar, it puts your launcher over on the far right. Whoever has their launcher on the right?
All you got to do is install an extension to move it over to the left.
That's pretty much true. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to take the Arch merge process here, and I'm going to install
Phase 1.
Phase 1. 512 KDE user LTS. And then maybe when 513 comes out and I get irritated because I don't have all the new features, maybe then I'll advance to stage 2 and install the user edition, the regular.
I'm glad you're not talking about a phase 3 possibility or phase 4, because that can only be done by Mensa users.
Okay, well, I can't do that. So, and
you can change the opacity for whatever you want.
I got a suggestion for you. There's a guy that on YouTube that does KDE customization videos.
Oh, who is it? What's his name?
And he's actually talked about this whole feature and displayed it, so you may want to go check his series out.
Where is that on Tux Digital?
It's you know where it is on Tux Digital? It's on tuxdigital.com/Big Daddy Linux. That's where it is.
You know what we're not talking about, guys? I tried it in Windows. All
right, everybody have a great week. And remember, the journey itself is just
as important as the destination.
Yeah, that.
Who went wrong?
That was terrible.
That was perfect.
It'll work out perfect.
This was our final episode. Thanks, Zeb.